Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, our chairman, CA Dr. Devashish Mitra, past president at ICI, and our vice chairperson, CA Shripriya Kumar, we welcome you today to the webinar on shaping the future for effective corporate governance. As we navigate an increasingly complex business environment, strong corporate governance has become more crucial than ever. It ensures transparency, accountability, and ethical decision making, laying the foundation for a long term success and sustainability. Today, we have with us CA Robin Banerjee, with whom we'll explore innovative strategies, best practices, emerging trends, which help shaping the governance framework in the future. I would like to thank Sir for joining us, and I would start with a brief introduction of Sir. Sir is a chartered accountant, a cost accountant, a company secretary, and MCOM graduate. Currently, he is the chairman of Nucleon Research Private Limited. He has previously served as managing director for Capri Hands India Limited for over a decade and also held several leadership roles in companies like Hindustan Unilever, ArcelorMittal Germany, Thomas Cook, etc. He also holds several board positions, including one with the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, SME Chamber of India, and Vice President of EU Chamber of Commerce. He is also the chairman of CIS Responsible Business Committee for Western India. Recently, he has received 2 Hall of Fame awards for finance and manufacturing. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us for this session, and we look forward to a very wonderful session with you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, based on what time you guys are and when you will listen to this conversation of ours. I'm supposed to speak to you about shaping the future of effective corporate governance. I'm supposed to speak to you about 2 important words. One, future. I wish I knew the future. And 2, the word called corporate governance. I believe that all those who are on this webinar today wouldn't necessarily be with accounting background. Perhaps most of you are chartered accountants, and maybe some of you may not be CAs, but perhaps looking at finance and accounting. Some of you are practicing accountants, some of you are auditors, some of you are professional accountants working for an organization. Some of you are perhaps not practicing accounting, but doing related work, could be insurance, could be management accounting, could be anything else, costing perhaps, but ultimately it all deals with money. I have about 2 hours with you, but I think it's very boring to talk about corporate governance and the future for 2 hours. So I would carry on till I believe things are getting interesting, and perhaps it is interesting for all of you. I'm one of you. I'm a chartered accountant like you, and I'm a professional executive. I run a company. I am not trained to be a professor. I'm not trained to be a speaking in one side. Now, unfortunate situation in a webinar like this that I can't see any one of you. I don't even perhaps know how many of you are actually either on this web or at least awake to listen to whatever I'm saying. So it's almost one-sided. I will speak and you will either listen or you will sleep. I hope that you listen and don't sleep. It would be nice that we make this interactive as much as possible. I'm very happy to take questions as we go along. I don't believe in this concept that I finish everything what I say and towards the end I ask the questions, because by the time you may have forgotten the question you had in mind. The topic which I'm going to talk to you about, it is not available in Google Auntie. Perhaps if you type it in artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, chances are you will not get it the way I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover all that what I have learned, I'm experiencing, and I believe we on this call or we as accountants will be experiencing in the future. So please put in your questions as we go along, and Seema will help with those questions to be communicated to me, and I should be able to then answer. One more, point. Whatever I'm going to say, there is nothing. What I'm going to say is absolutely right or absolutely wrong. There is no right answer, wrong answer for whatever I'm going to speak. If there was a right answer, then that would have been published in a things to do list, and you would have dictated, which obviously we are not doing it. So it's a feeling. It's a feeling as to how the ecosystem is developing in terms of governance, in terms of accounting, in terms of auditing, in terms of being a finance head, finance manager. I am not going to talk about the role of AI in this whole ball game because AI is a different kettle of fish that may or may not impact all of us what we are trying to do or doing. I shall leave it the role of AI for another day. Therefore, I hasten to add once again my topic for the next 120 minutes or less. I hope it is less because 2 hours is rather boring and I don't want you guys to sleep. It would depend upon if I'm getting good questions, I continue with more understanding of the topic. 2 words, as I told you, future, which we are supposed to talk, and 2, corporate governance. The way I'm going to handle this session, I'm going to tell you lots of stories. Try to tell you stories, try to tell you experiences, try to say what the accounting, auditing bodies are doing, try to say what NFR is thinking, National Financial Regulatory Authority, what they are thinking, which is very important to us as accountants and auditors. What they're thinking is very important for us to understand because that's going to link to the future. So if that's all, if you can all hear me, and I hope I'm not able to get to know whether you people are hearing or not hearing, there doesn't seem to be a direct conversation in some way or the other with you, which is unfortunate. As I said, I'm not a professor. I love people to be in front, eye to eye contact, and get a feeling that yes, whatever I'm saying making sense to you guys. But for the time being, given the context, which is rather limited, I would go ahead with my little discourse. Any views anyone has? Otherwise, I keep going. I hope all of you are able to hear me because technology may not always be very good. So having said this, what is corporate governance? And as I said, all of your accountants, all of your auditors, and will say, oh, corporate governance, very nice. Corporate governance is all about Companies Act, independent directors, board members, board meetings, don't fudge accounts, minutes of the meeting, publish financial results. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not corporate governance. That's not corporate governance. What is corporate governance? That's a very important thing to say. Okay. Now, corporate governance is all about, in maybe 1 or 2 sentences, is about producing goods and services, producing goods and services at appropriate cost, producing goods and services at appropriate cost or price. I would use the word price, of consistent quality. This is corporate governance. Producing goods and services at appropriate price and of consistent quality. You will perhaps have never heard this before. You will say, this is hogwash. How can that be corporate governance? Let me give you some stories. Let me tell you some stories, and I build on this concept of corporate governance, and then hopefully you will come to a conclusion, hopefully, that yeah, this is what I think is all about corporate governance. In 2020, you may have heard of a story of some honey. That's the time when the COVID started. Got adulterated. The Center for Science and Environment, CSE, Center for Science and Environment, did samples, took us samples of 13 most popular honey, 1, 3, 13, 13 most popular honey in the country, tested those honey and found 10 of those honey were adulterated. Can you believe a honey cost us about 150 or 200 rupees, manufactured and sold by famous companies like Patanjali, Dabur, and so on and so forth? They were adulterated. What is the what is it that the company was trying to gain? So what did they do? They adulterated honey with rice sugar imported from China. Honey in any case is sugary, is meetha. Honey is not khatta, is meetha. So they wanted to add little bit of meetha, I presume. They could have used any other good type of sugar rather than contaminating or adulterating it. And maybe they could have priced rather 50 paisa, 1 rupee more, 150 rupees product. What was the necessity to import rice sugar, it's harmful to the body, just for information, and adulterate this sugar, this honey? What was honey used for? For building immunity. It's an immunity builder. 2020, 2020, that's the time when COVID has attacked the country. 2020 December, COVID is already there for 8, 9, 10 months. People are taking honey to build immunity, and you find honey was adulterated. Now, you will say, what's so what? Now, this is a story, isn't it? I'll tell you another little story. Wherever you people are located, wherever all over India, wherever you are located, have you noticed? Have you noticed that um, any restaurant which is launched, wherever you stay, the life of a new restaurant does not exceed normally 18 months. When the restaurant is announced, you go there, you have a great food because it's a new restaurant, the owner is sitting, they're all waiting for you to go. You have a wonderful idli or dosa. But after 1 or 2 years, when you see it, say that, you wanted to have another idli or again another type of time, another idli, and you want to go to this restaurant where you said, last time when I went there, I found excellent idli, very soft and nice. You would go and find the idli is hard, it doesn't have the taste anymore, the sambar is more watery. And what happens? You do not recommend the restaurant anymore. I told you two little stories. One, how, by the way, I did not tell you the names of companies which adulterated. It included Dabur. And Dabur has been advertising that they're the world's purest honey, world's biggest exporter of honey, saying that they're in the business for more than 100 years, and yet their honey was found to have been adulterated. I'm not getting into the semantics whether it is right or wrong, but I'm only picking up what information I picked up from the public domain. There is nothing to prove as of now that so-called Center for Science and Environment study was wrong. So there is no such information so far. But be as it may, without getting into the semantics whether it was right or wrong, this is the information available to you and me. I'll take this restaurant example instance first. Why did you think the restaurant, when the next time after 1 or 2 years, they could not deliver the same quality soft idli? Why do you think that sambar became watery? Why do you think the next time when you went there, the service level went up? You know what happened? Normally, what happens is when the first time when a restaurant is opened, there is strict control. The manager is there, the owner sits there, they get the best chef, and everything is as per normal operating process. It's called the SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. As time goes by, 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, the chef may have left, the sous chef may have left, the manager would have got changed, the owner may not be coming to the restaurant anymore because he or she has now opened another 10, 15 restaurants. The SOP, while it is there, has stopped being followed. Standard operating procedure stopped being followed. What happened? The customer was unhappy. The customer is not recommending to anybody else to be shopping there, to be coming to have the idli and dosa or idli sambar there again, and the restaurant ultimately gets closed down. Same problem with in case of honey. Honey, someone down the line may have decided over a period, and if 10 out of 13 brands, most famous brands, were adulterating honey, it must be going on for years and years and years together. They may have figured out that if you adulterate and make the honey little more sugary, so you can you can pick up little less type, little lesser quality of honey. People will still feel very nice sugar, and they will keep buying mitha milega usko, so they will keep buying it. Really doesn't matter. Nobody catches us. What has happened thereafter? The world has stopped buying Indian honey, branded honey. At least many of the customers have stopped buying. Same problem. There was an SOP, standard operating process of manufacturing honey, which must have been lost over a period of time. People have altered it. People have made adulteration part of life, and nobody gave paid heed to it, and the customer suffered. Honey export suffered. Sales suffered. I'm not too sure whether the quantum of honey which the country was exporting and manufacturing is the same, but whatever little I know, that has significantly come down the value. Now, just imagine that if these two companies, the restaurants and these honey making companies, would have continued to make good quality products, at appropriate price without profiteering, not charging in excess from the customer, and have consistently, what they made it 1 year back and 2 years back, they continue to make the same thing. Wouldn't you think this company would have continued to do well? The company would have continued to do well. The economy would have continued to do well. Employees would have continued to do well. Customers, which is most important, would have continued to remain happy. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about corporate governance, this is what the Companies Act wants. This is how any regulator in any country wants. They just want to ensure the companies which are manufacturing and producing goods and services does not profiteer, number one, does not produce goods and services of suboptimal quality, and whatever they do at a consistent basis. This is what any regulatory system of any country wants. That's the ecosystem of a country wants. Unfortunately, how do you implement? You can't implement this. There is no law by which you can ensure consistent quality at appropriate price. It's not possible. At least the world hasn't figured out how to do that. No, the world hasn't figured out. Because the world hasn't figured out what they did, they came out with something in the Companies Act. And I'll also tell you from Companies Act 1956 to 2013, why 2013 Companies Act came. I will take it later. It's all about corporate governance, I must assure you that. So what happened is, as times went by, the regulators, or the so-called the political leadership, if I may say so, decided that why don't we have a legislation. In India, it is called the Companies Act. It used to be Companies Act of 1956. Now, as you know, it is called Companies Act 2013. So what it said is that if the companies have independent directors, if the company has board meetings, if the company is make at least once in 3 months a board meeting, if the accounts are published and accounts are signed up by the auditors once in a quarter, and the accounts are submitted to the register of companies, in our case, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MC in India. It used to be Register of Companies earlier. That's the earlier name. Minutes of the board meetings are done. They expect that the companies will be run properly. The cardinal principle of corporate governance is there are two legs to this corporate governance. There are two legs. cardinally. If you look at the whole companies at 2013, you will see two legs. One leg is independent directors and one leg is auditors. These are the two legs on which the companies, the ecosystem, here the government wants to make sure that the companies or the businesses have good corporate governance, which essentially means they are able to produce goods and services of appropriate price. Actually, it means at appropriate cost, but I say price because they should not do profiteering. They should not charge too much for the product and of consistent quality. I take a little pause because I have perhaps given you a new definition of corporate governance. You may have looked at corporate governance differently, and it's now 4:21. 20 minutes of my little chat. Is there any quick questions anyone has that would be nice to clarify and then move on? Because I'm going to now shift my gear and move into some other areas so that our concepts become very clear. I would request, please pay attention. I can assure you, you will learn something as you go along in this journey. I don't have a presentation, which I think is a very boring thing to do. And keep asking questions and keep seeking clarifications because I am going to challenge many things which we have been hearing, thinking, writing, and perhaps doing.
Thank you for that, sir. We have got few questions from our members. Mr. Satish Chandra, what he's asking is, apart from legal aspects and transparency in the corporate governance, sustainability of business is how important may also to be covered. This is his request. He has asked for sustainability of business also to be covered. Mr. Bhagirath,
No, I will answer this question first. Let's take, because it's a very important. I think you have asked a question up front, which is very nice. Who has asked the question? I couldn't get the name.
Mr. Satish Chandra Jha.
Hello. Satish Bhai, you have asked a very interesting question, I must tell you. Let me tell you, corporate governance has nothing to do with sustainability. Sustainability is all about, okay, because you have asked a question upfront, corporate governance takes care of two stakeholders. Two stakeholders, not anymore. For the first stakeholder, corporate governance takes care is the customer, the most important stakeholder of any business. The business world depends upon customer. Each one of us are also a customer. We are buying, we are procuring, we are enjoying. It's a customer. And the second is the ecosystem, the society. The society. So you have very excellent question you raised. It's so nice of you to raise this question. If you have a business, you produce, let's say, steel. You produce steel, and in steel you use water, and the water has iron ore, and it has lead. You produce steel, lovely steel. You produce the steel with water, and then what you do? You drain the water out to the municipality. Can we do that? And that drain water will go to the sea and the river, first the river and then the sea. Can we do that? Answer is no. Because as a governance, good governance principle, my stakeholders, our stakeholders are customers and the society. The society will not only include employees, it will include customers, it could include vendors, it will include government because you have to pay the taxes. So if you are a good governance company, if you're producing goods or services at appropriate price and of consistent quality, do you think a company of this nature will throw contaminated water into the river? Answer is no. Perhaps not. Because there is nothing in this Companies Act which says that everything what you do, you cannot have more sound, you cannot generate more dust, more smoke, more bad water. So sustainability is the method by which we are going to save this world. If we are not sustainable, we will not be able to save the world. And it is a part of a good governing principle. Unfortunately, the Companies Act doesn't say anything about it. Companies Act just said ESG report, आप ESG रिपोर्ट दे दो, उसके बाद क्या करेगा? But the fact that Companies Act is saying ESG report de do, but that also only for the 1,000 companies. There are 15 lakhs registered companies in India, 15 lakhs. 8,000 are in stock market, 5,000 are traded, and only top 1,000 को ESG report भेजना पड़ता है. That's where it is. So therefore, it is our bounden duty to be well and good governed citizen of the country. I know I have answered the question round-wise. To ask the question directly, there is no Companies Act requirement of sustainability, but it is a good governing principle to do so.
Thanks for that, sir. Another question we have is from Mr. Bhagirath, who is asking how effective is the extent of financial internal control in ensuring strong corporate governance?
Yes, yes. Because if your internal controls are strong, you will be forced to follow SOPs, standard operating procedures, which means you will be producing goods and services of good quality at appropriate price and consistent quality. Now, of course, now it goes on to preparing accounting data incorrectly, doctoring accounting data, on that, which I will come to for sure. But the basic principle is yes, internal controls, internal audit helps good corporate governance for sure.
Great. On the story which you have just mentioned about the honey thing, we got a question from Mr. Prasanna, where he says that, as you mentioned, consistency is important. In example given by you of honey, assuming Dabur has been selling adulterated honey since beginning, how does it violate corporate governance?
Oh, that's a nice one. I didn't think about it, Prasanna. Oh, wow. I hats up to you. Hats up to you. I didn't think about it. You are right. पहले से contaminated honey, adulterated honey करे तो consistent ही हो गया. I
Right.
have no answer.
So actually, we are getting, lot many questions from
I love it. Prasanna question, you will get number one prize for this question. A good question. I don't know the answer.
Yes,
Seema, if you
so
have an answer, you can answer it. But I don't know the answer. पहले से contaminated honey करे तो ठीक है, पहले से ही कर रहे हैं.
very true. वो शुरू से ही नहीं है सर उसमें.
Good one.
I
Very
think
good
we
one.
can move forward, sir, for the next topic now, and we'll take the questions as it is.
Excellent. So good. I'm happy at least 3 of you are awake. Let's move on. I did talk about corporate governance. I think there were some clarifications and so forth. I want to tell you a story. Of corporate governance, because we are accountants. We are all accountants, and we are all, so most of our chartered accountants here, finance people. Corporate fraud is a very important aspect of our what would I say, our duty to the citizens of the country to deliver that the country is fraud free, the accounting is fraud free, the books of accounts are fraud free, the investors gets books of account which doesn't have frauds. So this is our bounden duty. That is why you and me exist. You and me exist to ensure the ecosystem is fraud free. The face, because we are not face to face, I'm not able to ask you a question, but the face of bad corporate governance, or the name which comes to someone's mind, that if I have to ask you one name, one corporate name, one company's name, a name which comes to your mind for poor corporate governance, bad corporate governance, which name will it come to your mind? Many names perhaps, but I will just mention one is Kingfisher. Kingfisher, if you remember in 2007, 2008, if you wanted to fly, let's say to Goa, and your secretary or admin department asks you, Madam, sir, you are going to Goa, which airlines would you fly? Chances are that you would have preferred Kingfisher at that point of time. Kingfisher flying high, a great aircraft, lot of leg room, leg space, good-looking men and women inside to serve you, feel free food, a TV in front of you, you can have some entertainment. And of course, when you would get down, they will give you a free pen, which would, of course, never write. So, lot was going for Kingfisher. It went very nice. Come 2012, Kingfisher became bankrupt. The last Kingfisher flight took off. So far, so good. If bankrupt हो गया, चलो क्या करेगा? Nothing to be done. Come 2015, Mr. Vijay Mallya, who happens to be as you know, the person who started Kingfisher and of course the majority owner of the company, was celebrating his 60th birthday. And his birthday, if I remember, was 21st or 22nd of December, third week of December, before Christmas. He was celebrating his 60th year. Vijay Mallya used to copy Richard Branson. I hope you have heard this name, called Richard Branson, British entrepreneur. Virgin Airlines co-owner, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Music, the Virgin Group, VIRGIN, no, GIN, Virgin Group ka chairperson. He was also similar, long hair and tall, loud mouth, very handsome. In fact, I know, of course, I know King Vijay Mallya, and I have also met and known from close quarters Mr. Virgin Airlines, Richard Branson. So Richard Branson used to copy. So 60th airline, 60th birthday, and what Vijay Mallya did, he announced in the newspaper that he's going to celebrate his 60th birthday at the Kingfisher Villa in Goa. If anyone has gone to Goa over the last 10, 15 years, you would have definitely crossed Kingfisher Villa somewhere. So he was supposed to have it in Kingfisher Villa, one of the finest villas constructed in India, at least at that time. So there was one young man, I'm trying to go a little faster. There was one young man who was a young man, he was a journalist. He saw a newspaper, an advertisement, and not a press note. He issued a press note. He got a press note saying that Mr. Vijay Mallya is celebrating his 60th birthday in his Kingfisher Villa. So he called up Vijay Mallya. He said, "Sir, you are having your 60th birthday. You haven't invited me." "Acha, you have not been invited? Okay, come. So he was sent his aircraft, an air ticket, and he landed in the Kingfisher Villa, which was whatever, 18th, 19th, or 20th of December. It was a three-day birthday bash. So when he entered the Kingfisher Villa, he happens to be not only a newspaper reporter, but he was also a photographer. He was the Times of India photographer. He was actually the Bombay Times photographer. With Times of India, there is a pullout which comes: Bombay Times, Mumbai Times, Pune Times, wherever you are, Chandigarh Times. So he was this supplement photographer, supplement issue of Times of India. So he went inside the Kingfisher Villa, and he found there's a big party going on. And because he was a photographer, he had his camera with him. So what he did for 3 days, he not only drank the best of whiskey and wine, he also kept taking pictures of the party. And he was inside. It was a private party, by the way. He took pictures. After that, he went back to his office in Times of India, Bombay. And he went back on 22nd and 23rd, maybe 23rd. And he filed his paper, his pictures to his editor. The editor was very happy. He said, "Wow, you went for a private party and took all the private pictures. Very good." So what he did, the editor published these pictures of the Kingfisher party, 60th birthday party, in the Times pullout, which is the extra newspaper which comes with the Times of India. So he published it. And these pictures, which is called the page 3, the pictures were published in page 3. And these pictures came out on the Christmas day, 25th of December, 2015. So it was okay, so far so good. Because the pictures came out on a Christmas day, there was one gentleman who is very busy and wouldn't normally open this page 3. He was at home. He had nothing to do because it was a holiday. And he opened the newspaper and he found on page 3 the picture of this gala party. Apparently, the Kingfisher spent about 60 crores on that party. And please understand, Vijay Mallya has already stopped paying his employees since 2012. People have lost jobs, lost so much because of him. Who was this gentleman? He was none other than Raghuram Rajan, Reserve Bank of India governor. So he got wild. He saw the newspaper at 11 o'clock in the morning. He got wild by seeing this picture, the party picture. So he picks up the telephone and calls SBI chairperson Arundhati Bhattacharya. That time Arundhati Bhattacharya was the chairperson of SBI. Incidentally, just for information, all of you are accountants, so I must explain to you this one. As you know, in the banking system, there is something called NPA, non-performing asset. That means if a bank gives a loan to a borrower and the borrower does not pay the interest or principal on time, that is within 90 days, that account will be declared as an NPA, non-performing asset. And of course, the bank has to create more provisions. And as the time goes by, the provision amount, percentages keeps growing up. I don't have to explain to you, all of you are aware of it. But this is in December 25th, 2015. In November 2015, just about 2 months back, SBI had declared Vijay Mallya as a willful defaulter. Forget about NPA. NPA to declare ho gaya tha 2012 mein. But in 2015, it was declared as a willful. He was declared as a willful defaulter. Who is a willful defaulter? A willful defaulter is a person who has the ability to pay but has not paid to the banking system or for the borrowing. He had the ability. So it's a chore. Quote unquote, willful defaulter means he's a chore. November, he was I think first week of November, SBI declared him as willful defaulter. So Raghuram Rajan calls Arundhati Bhattacharya and says, Arundhati, are you at home? Yes, sir. Do you have Times of India? Yes, sir. Can you pick up your Mumbai Times, which is the supplement paper? Yes, sir. Can you open page 3? Oh, sure, sir. And she opened page 3 and found the whole picture of Vijay Mallya's party. Arundhati understood immediately the gravity of the problem. Raghuram Rajan asks, Raghuram tells Arundhati, just think, if I would have taken a car loan worth 4 lakhs, those days Maruti was available at 4 lakhs, I guess 4 or 5 lakhs. If I take a car loan of 4 lakhs, and if I do not pay you my car loan on time, will you not take my car away? Will you not confiscate my car? So she said, yes, sir. He asked Arundhati, then why is the Kingfisher villa with Vijay Mallya still? You have already declared him as a willful defaulter last month, November 2015. And why is he having the party in the same villa, which actually belongs to you? He has no right to even enter that premises. So she said, yes, sir, I agree with you. Vijay Mallya tells Arundhati, this man must be arrested. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, we are in 2025. In 2015, arresting entrepreneurs were not at all common. It was absolutely not common. It was almost impossible to arrest somebody. By the way, Vijay Mallya was also Rajya Sabha MP. So he had the immunity under diplomacy immunity, diplomatic immunity. He had the diplomatic immunity being a Rajya Sabha member. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha members have this immunity and they can't be arrested. So she said that, so what they decided, that they would move the Supreme Court. They would move the Supreme Court for confiscating Mr. Vijay Mallya's passport. It was in December 25th, I told you. It took 2 months. It took 2 months for all the banks. There were about 23 or 24 banks together. They all had to come together without letting Vijay Mallya know that they are trying to confiscate his passport. Otherwise, though, somebody will be shot dead. So they moved the Supreme Court on 3rd or 4th of March, 3rd March, I guess, and 2016, and it was an open court, 11 o'clock hearing. In the second or third hearing itself, on the third list, the judge wrote, open court gave an open court order saying that Vijay Mallya's passport should be confiscated. So it was a success from the banker's point of view. Soon thereafter, a boy comes up to the bench and says, "Sir, Vijay Mallya has run away from India. He had taken the previous night's flight, Jet Airways first class. There used to be a Jet Airways flight, Bombay, London. Even I have taken it at 12 बजे रात को होता था, and I think सुबह 8 बजे से 6 बजे पहुंचता था लंदन में. He has flown away, first class aircraft, first class ticket, 14 bags with him, with his girlfriend, gone. He actually had a girlfriend with him, and it's gone. Oh, finished. Raghuram Rajan got wild. He said, "I have done everything possible. I've done everything possible, and yet I couldn't arrest this man. I couldn't prevent him from running away." Because what they were thinking, that week one, they will go for passport confiscation, and the second week, they will move for their arrest, because not knowing how the Supreme Court will behave, especially when he was a Rajya Sabha MP. So things actually fell flat, all the plan gone wasted. So what Raghuram Rajan did, come about third week of, I think 17th and 18th of March, around that time, many of you would have been exposed to this, what I'm going to tell you, because all of you are also, some of you are finance people. RBI had came out with a circular saying that every NPA must be recognized on 31st of March. Every willful defaulter must be recognized on 31st of March, and the banks must make appropriate provision on 31st of March. What used to happen? There used to be something called evergreening going on those days. I have myself seen that banks were fudging the Excel spreadsheet those days. The loan date, if the loan was falling due on 31st of March, they will shift it to 31st of April. And hand in glove with the entrepreneurs, they will give the entrepreneur more time and not declare an account as NPA. As you know, if an account is NPA, no further loans will be given. Nothing else will happen. Of course, willful defaulter means there could be arrests and so on and so forth. So what happened? Because of this huge episode of Kingfisher, on 31st of March, all banks recorded every NPA correctly. He said that if you don't account for all NPS correctly, your jobs will be at stake. Of course, that was not a public statement, but informally through RBI, he mentioned through his channels that if you don't write it down, if you don't make the proper disclosures now, you are in trouble. So no bank manager, of course, will take that risk. You will be surprised to know that from the country's NPA was about 5 or 6% that time. 31st March, it became 12% officially. But the World Bank had said it's actually not 12%. The NPA in the country was 18%. Because those days, there used to be this restructuring of accounts. If you remember, accounts were getting restructured. You will get more time to pay through a hockey stick effect after 7 years, 6 years. He said none of this will get paid off. 90% of the restructured accounts will also not get paid. 18% was the NPA. Now, what is the business of banking? Business of banking is all about taking loans from you and me, that means borrow from you and me, and giving loans to the entrepreneurs. Historical evidence shows, and I'm doing a little fast because all of you hopefully will be able to understand fast. Otherwise, you please ask me the question, I will clarify again. historical evidence showed that 4% of all loans given did not come back. That means 4% was their historical NPA. Historical NPA. Therefore, as per Basel II, you remember there is a Basel II, Basel III. Basel is a place in Switzerland where they decide what the banking financials and non should be, banking law should be. That the banking system should have 5% equity and 95% borrowed loan. So if it's 4% doesn't come back, 4% NPA, then the equity will only suffer. 1% will still be the cushion. But the actual NP became 12%, if not 18%. Think of a situation. In 2015, if each one of us would have gone to the banks and we started withdrawing the banking system, our money, the country would have gone bankrupt. If in 2015, if all of us would have gone to borrow the money, get our money back from the banking system, the country would have gone bankrupt because equity was only 5%. 18% is the default. So what will happen? The borrowing will not be paid back. So what money we have kept 95 rupees, udhar se 18, 13, 14 rupiya chala jayega. We would have got only about 75 rupees or maybe 70 rupees of our money. The banking system was in serious trouble in 2015. Serious trouble, ladies and gentlemen. Please try to understand, I'm not a political person. I have nothing to do with politics. These are all economics. Had this Kingfisher fellow, that idiot called Vijay Mallya, not celebrated his 60th birthday, not invited outsiders to come for the party, that not invited that Bombay Times photographer to come in, had the Bombay Times photograph been published on any other day other than 25th of December, which is a holiday, had Raghuram Rajan not seen the Bombay Times picture, I am not too sure, ladies and gentlemen, we would have been able to dream of Vikshit Bharat as we are doing today. The matter is as significant. It was a corporate fraud of Kingfisher which led to the discovery and hopefully the savior of Indian ecosystem. Now, that was a big story. And there are hundreds and thousands of stories which I can tell you. I have written books which obviously Seema did not mention the books' names. I have a book which is just written about, I have 3 books, but a book which has got published very recently called Corporate Frauds, Bigger, Broader and Bolder, just now about, it's fairly recently published. If you ever want to understand more of frauds and more of the stories, is that Corporate Frauds, Bigger, Broader and Bolder has more than 350 stories, lots and lots of stories, including this one, of course. Anyone who is interested to know more about how the underworld, the below the carpet things which is going in the corporate world, please do read. This is a full chapter on accounting frauds also, including black money, white money, black money, cryptocurrencies, and so on and so forth. Everything is there, all the frauds which takes care, which happens in the world. But having said that quick word, I will now summarize, of course, then what next? I will come to that. But if anyone has any quick question.
As of now, we haven't received any questions, sir. So we can move
Got
forward.
it. So people have started sleeping already. That's very nice. Now, we are trying to build a picture. We are trying to paint a picture of governance. When we are talking about shaping the future for effective corporate governance, the way we have to look at this stuff is what's the past, what's the present, and what's going to be the future. You are all aware that before this Kingfisher fraud, if I would have asked you what is another fraud, if you can remember, if you can name, chances are that you will name Satyam fraud. You will all name Satyam fraud. That came into light. Some fraud was between 2002 and 2008 actually, 2002 2008, and 2009 is where Ramalinga Raju, he then confessed. that I've done fraud. What did he do? He did accounting fraud. That was an accounting fraud. He had 5 crores of cash in the balance sheet, 5 or whatever, maybe 50, and he made that 5 crores, 5,000 crores. He had only 5,000 crores of invoicing sales or 6,000 crores of invoicing sales revenue, and he made it to 50,000 crores. So he doctored the balance sheet. Having doctored the balance sheet, he, as you know, auditors did not catch. PwC was auditors. A lot has been written and spoken about it. I'm not getting into that right or wrong. Whether the two partners should have been able to find it. I'm not getting into it at all. But come 2009, the Satyam fraud came into picture. The government got wild. The government was thinking that what were the auditors doing? Why did the internal auditors not able to catch? Why did the owner? He had to come himself. The owner himself squeaked. The owner himself came up with saying that, you know what? I've cheated. I cheated. My accounts are all falsified. I don't have that money. 5,000 crores हमारे पास है नहीं. 50,000 crores हमारे पास sales है नहीं. उसका 1/10 है. The implication of Satyam fraud because the auditing community, which is our community, the chartered accounting community, failed to bring to light such a systemic fraud which is going on for over a period of time. The government amended the Companies Act of 1956 and came out with the Companies Act of 2013. Companies Act 2000, the new companies was in works, was being written for last 7-8 years. But they hurried as soon as they found that Satyam fraud, why the Satyam fraud could not be caught. Companies Act had to be rewritten and redrawn up. In Satyam fraud, what did I say? In the balance sheet, there was 5 crores. Sorry, in reality, there was 5 crores of cash in their account, but the balance sheet was showing 5,000 crores cash balance. Actual sales was 5,000 crores, more or less. P&L was showing 50,000 crores sales, more or less. What could have done to catch them? Then they, in their wisdom, decided, let us have directors who are independent directors. And the concept of independent directors came into picture. The way the Companies Act 2013 is structured, saying that independent directors, if there are, let's say in case of a large company, 2/3 independent directors, if the company have 2/3 of the directors independent, chances are that these sort of frauds will not take place. This is the philosophy. Whether that is happening or not happening, of course, it's not happening in totality for sure. We all know that. That's how 2013 Companies Act came into picture. Then I told you just now, Kingfisher fraud in 2015. In 2015, this fraud came into picture 2016. That 2016, this man runs away. The company became bankrupt in 2012. But 2015, Raghuram Rajan figured out and Arundhati Bhattacharya figured out that this man is a fraud, so he has to be arrested and so on. So what he ran away, that is 2016 March. They said, then what is to be done? Companies like Kingfisher just cannot shut your shop with all the aircraft standing on the tarmac. It's national asset. So somebody should take over. And the owner has flown off. Owner has gone. So what do we do? Nothing. What happened? The Insolvency Banking Code comes into existence in 2016. IBC was in the works for a long time. There was the SARFAESI Act and so on and so forth. Nothing worked. The government was thinking hard and fast. But once this 2015 episode took place, within 1 year, they hustled, and that is a fantastic thing. The company came out with this Insolvency Banking Code. Why am I discussing Insolvency Banking Code in the corporate governance talk? Insolvency Banking Code is the most powerful corporate governance step. One of the most powerful. What does Insolvency Banking Code say? Insolvency Banking Code says that if you have borrowed money from the bank and if you have not paid it for 90 days, which is you are an NPA, the banking system will give you another 330 days to pay or to convince the bank that you will pay. If you don't do that, we will hand over your company to a body called NCLT or NCLAT, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, Company Law Tribunal, who will then auction, they will auction your asset to another company who wants to run your company. That is why Essar Steel got auctioned off to JSW Steel and Tata Steel as the case may be, as well as ArcelorMittal Steel as the case may be. Bhushan Steel became JSW, sorry, ASR Steel became ArcelorMittal Steel, and Bhushan Steel became JSW Steel, and of course there are two companies, Bhushan Steel and Power Bhushan Steel. It became JSW Steel and so on and so forth. It all happened because of IBC. Now, why am I saying this is one of the most significant steps in the annals of India's corporate governance? Because this is little past, just about 2018, sorry, 2016 it happened. No entrepreneur wants to have a business which will be taken away by somebody else. चोरी किया चोरी करे तब भी उनको business ही चाहिए. They can't give away the business to anybody else. So in this situation like this, moment now that IBC has come, the recovery, as you know, the quality of balance sheet of banks have improved. Why? The entrepreneurs are now making payments on time, or at least more time than what they used to do earlier. They have become more disciplined because they know that if they are not disciplined, do not pay the money back on time, their companies will be auctioned off, as SR has happened, as of course so many hundreds and hundreds of them have happened. Who had the companies, large companies with 40, 50,000 crore of debt is all gone from the owners. Two frauds. One is the Satyam fraud led to Companies Act, where independent director, the office of independent directors have come into existence to take care of good governance. And the second, the Satyam fraud, Kingfisher fraud, which resulted in the companies, the government of India, to come up with the Insolvency Banking Code. So the ecosystem of India got created, as I'm talking to you, only due to the creation happening of some banking frauds. So frauds which came into existence. So this is where we are. I take a little pause and any questions.
We've got some questions on this topic, sir.
So people are again awake.
Yes, they are. The stories that you are telling are quite interesting, I'm sure. So there are, less chances to sleep. So the question is, what are the key measures that board and leadership can implement to reduce the risk of fraud while maintaining effective governance?
Two. I can tell 5, 6, 7 things is Johan. First, the board must be board ka औकात होना चाहिए. The board must be an effective board. Most of the time, because all of us are chartered accountants, the press is not there. Hopefully, no press. Seema, I hope there is no press.
No, sir, no press.
Because it's a captive meeting. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is being broadcasted. We are throughout. So.
Okay. So many independent directors in many companies are not independent. They are dependent. They are friends of the entrepreneur. And therefore, they don't ask questions. If you are a director of a company, and if you understand accounting, basics of accounting, don't you think you will be able to know that there is something hanky-panky going on? Is it possible that a big hanky-panky goes on and the directors don't get to know? Is it feasible? Is it at all possible? Do you think Vijay Mallya, who took 7,000 crores of loan and did not pay back the banking system, and he was taking the money on the garb that he is going to repair the Kingfisher aircrafts. Without using the money for the aircrafts, he was money laundering it. This is available in the public domain. Is it possible to believe that none of the directors knew? Or is it that the bunch of useless directors were on that board? Maybe both, maybe a mix of both. So your question was, how does a system of effective good governance work? Is what I think your question was. The directors, essentially, especially independent directors, based on which the fulcrum of good governance stands, must do their job. They must ask the right question. They should say, Acha, Vijay Bhai, you are taking so much of loan, but why are the aircrafts not flying? Because the aircrafts actually stopped flying from 2010 onwards. It is 2012 it became bankrupt. So 2009, 2010 se jhamela chalu ho gaya tha. You got loans from the banks. What are you doing with the loans? Shouldn't you ask this question? So I personally believe that if the directors really wanted to be independent and really want the good of the company, they should ask the right question. And if those questions are not appropriately answered, then they have the right to go to MCA. They can actually write to MCA that I am a board member, I am not getting the right answers. So would you like to help me? And that's why MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, exists. If it's a listed company, they can write to SEBI. So there is, and I will explain to you the regulatory mechanism in the country. I will explain to you for sure. There is a regulatory body and the ecosystem which provides the independent directors with the ammunition. Should something go wrong and no one is listening, at least the company is not listening, you can go to somebody else to solve the issue.
We have another question, sir. Given that most of the documents are in digital form across sectors like Amazon, Zomato, banking, etc., how can we ensure compliance with corporate governance and the proper compilation of audit documentation as per SA 230?
I personally feel audit documents have nothing to do with documents available in the public domain. Documents available in the public domain are publicly available information. But you are supposed to report on a company's accounts, company's privately available information, which is only as an auditor you know and no one else knows. Once you sign off, then it goes into the public domain. Even the board of directors, the independent directors, do not get to know what the company's accounts are. So I don't think that Google and Amazon information available therein is affecting your and my audit work. What can, however, happen if you want to write the audit report by using ChatGPT, that is perhaps where the problem lies. Because ChatGPT writes based on publicly available information. ChatGPT is not having access to private information. In fact, it's now 2 years. Private information to ChatGPT is not available. And now, of course, various versions, newer versions, does start using newer information, but these are all publicly available information. So if you're not using ChatGPT to write your audit report, I don't think publicly available information affects our audit reporting. At least I have never been exposed to it. Whoever is asking this question, I'm sure you have some reason by which you're asking. I'm requesting Seema that I'm happy to engage one-on-one with the member and try to see what is his problem or her problem, and happy to discuss that so that the problem can be solved. Okay, good. Seema, is that okay? Any other questions you have?
Sir, we can continue to the session now. Yeah.
So give me 1 second. I'll just my laptop is still charged. There's a problem. I want to now explain to you the ecosystem of corporate governance. I would explain to you the role of NFRA because many of you are auditors, and I do understand, and I do quite a bit of work with them in some way or the other. So it would be nice to, I will explain to you what they are thinking. But let me first tell you what's ecosystem. There are 5 layers of corporate governance ecosystem, 5 layers. The top layer of ecosystem is the management. They are primary, the first port of call who is responsible for any chamela is the management. They know everything. They are the one who is, if anything is going wrong, if they're cooking books, they are the one who is cooking books. Therefore, the first level is the management. The second level of governance is the independent directors. As I told you, independent directors have to meet once a quarter. They meet once a quarter. The management makes presentations to them. They have every right to ask every question they want to ask. No large capital expenditures can be done without the board approval. And 2/3 of the board is independent directors. And therefore, independent directors is a big, let's say, rail or guardrail, a guardrail to prevent poor governance. First is the management, who is the first port of call. They are the one who is doing everything, and they are the primarily responsible for poor governance, fraud, whatever you say. Second comes independent directors. The third layer, there are 5 layers. There are 5 layers the ecosystem has for governance. Hopefully, this clarifies your questions a little better. The third layer are the auditors. The auditors, if you are a good auditor, if you're a diligent auditor, I see no reason why you will not be able to find a hanky-panky going on. It's with private experience, personal experience, and very difficult to say the auditors did not know that something is going on. That definitely will help. If you are reading the NFRA orders, you will be definitely understand that as to how time and time again the auditors did not do the job. Time and time again, auditors did not ask the right question. Time and time again, the auditors allowed the entrepreneurs to carry out the fraud years together. There are 90 orders NFRA has already issued. Read the orders and you will understand what's going on in the ecosystem as regards auditors are concerned. Management, IDs, independent directors, auditors. The fourth are the investors. Investors are the fourth. Guardrail. Investors ask questions. In case of shareholders, a publicly held company, shareholders like you and me, we can ask questions once a year. But if there are these PE investors and angel investors and private investors, they have much more handle over the company. They are perhaps understanding how the company is behaving every quarter, every month. They're having quarterly calls, monthly calls. Investors is the fourth guardrail. They must ask the question, why are you doing something wrong? Are you using the money appropriately? Unless they are hand in gloves. And the fifth guardrail, the last one, are the regulators. Regulator is not the first one. Regulator is the last one. Who is the regulator? In the regulator space, if there is a fraud in a company, where is the fraud first reported? How do you report a fraud? A report, let's say cashier has stolen money. Cashier steals money. What will you do? First, you will try on your own way to recover from the cashier, but you find cashier is gone. It's taken some whatever, 10 crores, 15 crores, 20 crores gone, 100 crores gone. He's no longer there, not traceable. You will go to police station. You'll file an FIR. The first port of call of a corporate fraud is the police. Unfortunate truth is, police hardly understands what's happening. They are not trained in corporate frauds as much as what we should train them. So first port of call is police. What they would do with it, criminal offense, wagara wagara will happen or may not happen. They may not be able to do whatever they wish to do. The second in our ecosystem, the regulators, is the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Ministry of Corporate Affairs as I told you, there are 15 lakhs, over 15 lakhs companies in India. Every one of us, unless we are if you are not a proprietorship or partnership, LLPs, private limited, public limited, any other company have to file our quarterly records, annual results to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So if Minister of Corporate Affairs um, 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 MCA came into existence in 2007. Before that, it was Register of Companies. If and they do, then they do see the results, and they are now making suo motu application. They are on their own volition to the NFRA, saying that ये reports अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. Can you have a look at it? And then NFRA takes up. The next port of call for a regulator is a SEBI, but it is applicable only to the listed companies. Listed companies only MCA, there is no SEBI. As I told you, out of so-called 15 lakh companies, only 8,000 are traded in the stock market. No, registered in the stock market. They are listed company, listed in the stock market. 5,000 are traded sometime or the other. And therefore, it is this small portion of 5 or 8,000 companies which comes under SEBI. But of course, it has large value. And the last one, which is the most recent one, and 2018, SEBI came into picture in 1968, by the way. In 2018 is NFRA, National Financial Reporting Authority. In this regulation system, there is something called ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So before NFRA comes Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So we, the chartered accountants, sign a balance sheet, as we say this is true and fair. And I want to tell you that while the balance sheets are being signed as true and fair, the society is now expecting us to sign what is true and correct. We can say what we want, but that is what the society is expecting. More and more, if you look at the NAFRA orders, NFRA's orders, you will find that they are not taking cognizance to this true and fair anymore. They're saying, why haven't you been able to see there was enough proof, there was enough noise, there were enough notice that you could have found out that there was something was going wrong. And the last one, as I said, is NFRA ICAI. And NFRA, as you know, is the mother body of regulator for ICAI. If anything goes wrong, no, not anything goes wrong. For any listed company, every listed company or non-listed company with 500 crores of equity and 1,000 crores of sales are also, even if it's a private company, the NFRA can examine the accounts of the accounts of audited accounts of these companies. Now, why am I saying this? See, we are supposed to look at what's the ecosystem of corporate governance. The ecosystem is management, independent directors, auditors, investors, regulators. In regulator, please understand, many a time we find people say, where were the regulators? But the regulators are the last. Where were the management? What were the auditors doing? What were the investors doing? So what were the independent directors doing? So first, we must hold them responsible as much. Now come to the regulators. Regulator, police, okay, it's good because you have to go to police if there is some theft and so on and so forth. But when there is a big corporate fraud, like Mr. Vijay Mallya, which I told you, can you go to police? What will police do? The man is gone, 1,000 crore. The police wouldn't even know how to count 7,000 crores. SEBI, by all means, but SEBI is more focused on stock market insider trading, and so forth, so on and so forth. If that is happening, if there is a fraud going on, SEBI is yet not as active as what it should be. That's where ICAI, when we are signing a balance sheet and P&L, we are obviously doing something right. Otherwise, the country would have gone to bonkers. And of course, NFRA, which has come in 2018, they've already gone through 90 of our accounts and has really, to my mind, we can complain that say NFRA should not be there and only ICAI should exist. But the fact that NFRA has been able to find out that all is not well with what we are signing, I think it's a wake-up call for us to see that things needs to be handled appropriately by all of us. Otherwise, we as chartered accountants will not exist. Now, before I take a little pause, I want to tell you one more thing. All of your accountants and auditors, there are two types of frauds in the world. There is this micro fraud, internal control frauds. The cashier has run away with the fraud, the money. The purchase department is taking bribes. The security department is taking out scraps in the night. These are micro frauds. Frauds which can cover through good, appropriate internal control system, internal audit, and good SOPs, standard operating procedures. But there is something called a macro fraud. The macro frauds are those frauds which are structured by the owner, structured by the board, structured by the entrepreneur. Kingfisher fraud. Who structured it? Where is the internal control here? This is not micro fraud. Mr. Vijay Mallya decided that as and when a loan is given by the bank, I will run away, I will take the money away, I will money launder it. Could the internal audit figure it out in this particular case? Perhaps yes, of course. But who structured it? It was structured by the owner. Satyam fraud. Who structured it? Ramalingaraj. Could the auditors have found it? Of course, yes. But it's not micro fraud, it's a macro fraud being structured by the owner. So there are two types of fraud, micro fraud and macro fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, all those who are in this call or who will ever hear this webinar later on, please keep in mind that all of us are now, micro fraud is not the trouble area. It is the macro fraud which is the trouble area. Macro frauds are structured by the higher ups and right at the top of the management itself, maybe 1 or 2%, or maybe the whole management itself, top management, we don't know. You therefore must ask the right question. I'm not too sure how often do you read NFRA reports. NFRA reports are available in the public domain. It's my submission to each one of you. Please read NFRA reports. That's called real learning. What is it that the auditors ought to have done and not doing? If you read the reports, ever, there is one word which will keep coming up again and again in their orders. I'm sorry, it's not report, but NFRA orders. I actually meant orders. I incorrectly said the word report. NFRA orders. There are two words which they keep repeating, and this is the heart of what the corporate governance future is. We are supposed to discuss future, and we are all discussing past and present. It's called professional skepticism. The auditor must exercise professional skepticism. This is the word which keeps coming on and on and on. If you look at the word skepticism, before I talk about skepticism, when we passed our exam, and maybe even the exam which are passing, students are passing even today, there is a word called auditors are not bloodhound but a watchdog. Auditors are not a watchdog but a bloodhound. And we keep reading this. Auditors are not watchdog but a bloodhound, but not a watchdog. They are not a bloodhound but a watchdog. Which means that I can only watch that something is not going on. I'm not a bloodhound. I'm not going to bite anybody and try to get information out of him or her. Fair. We are not bloodhound, but we are sniffer dogs. We have to sniff if anything is going on. That's called professional skepticism. That means you must always doubt your hat when you are wearing as an auditor. The hat will that of doubting that something could go wrong. That is skepticism. But professional skepticism, you don't have to be a detective. You don't have to be an investigator. But the difference between a professional skepticism and investigator and detective is very narrow. I don't want to get into this, whether what is right, what is wrong. But the expectation, the society expects, ladies and gentlemen, if you are an auditor, as you are an accountant, that you will always exercise professional skepticism. That means you should be able to sniff out a fraud which could be taking place. When in this ecosystem, what is that particular transaction which is the most common method by which frauds are taking place in companies? If I have to talk about one common method, one method, which is the most popular method by which money is getting sucked out, accounts are getting doctored, entrepreneurs are making money, banks' money is being looted, investors' money is being looted. What is that one area, and where the government has now become very, very careful? That is related party transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please go through the related party transaction and see and sniff as a sniffer dog. German Shepherds are known as the best sniffer dogs in the world. Become not a bloodhound, but a sniffer dog. Neither a shepherd nor a bloodhound, but a German Shepherd sniffer dog. You must smell and see, badbu aa raha hai ki nahi? Is it smelling proper or is it smelling bad and foul? That's what is expected now. That is where the governance is going tomorrow. Two words. We, the accountants, will have to exercise professional skepticism. Doubt, have a doubtful thing, doubtful mind. I hope everything's right. To sniff for trouble, sniff for problem. You will not be able to excuse yourself. You will not be able to excuse yourself. That's no, I'm only supposed to report true and fair. Those days are gone. I don't know, of late, there is a report by NFRA on Z Entertainment. Z Entertainment Limited, Zeal इसको बोलते हैं. Zeal is the latest NAFRA report, I think, end December 2024. Last 17 days, no new reports have come. If you ever go to, that's a long report. In fact, there is a corrigendum to the report. There is one central theme of Zeal, which has not only taken the auditors to task and name he would earn for all diseases is all gone. What happened? Can you hear me? I think there was an internal disturbance. Seema, can you hear me? Was there a disturbance?
We can hear you, sir. It's clear.
Okay. I will take a break now, means I will ask you questions, because then I will try to summarize where I am. But before that, I just want to tell you that if you look at a Zeal report, that is Z Entertainment report or NFRA, it was a related party transaction problem. What happened? In short, in two sentences, it's a huge report. Z company, Z Television, Subhash Chandra Bose ka company hai, sorry, Subhash Chandra ji ka company hai. They took a 200 crores, put a fixed deposit on Yes Bank. You put a Yes Bank, 200 crores. Then what they did, they withdrew this fixed deposit before the maturity period. It's a listed company, and used that 200 crores to pay loans taken from related party. Have you understood? There was a fixed deposit with Yes Bank, 200 crore, prematurely usko withdraw kiya, and used that money to pay related party. That means they paid their own self. Related party कौन होता है? Sister, brother, mother, वही तो होगा ना? Clear case of siphoning of money. Clear case. Related party transaction. If my auditor would have been little careful in related party transaction, हुआ क्या? First, two things. You had a fixed deposit. You withdrew prematurely. Did you take a board approval? Listed company है बाबा. Board approval तो लेना चाहिए ना. चलो board approval ले लिया. तो board approval ले लिया, 200 crore लिया. तो किया क्या? What have you done? Did you pay a supplier or did you pay a related party? How long does it take? Maybe 5 minutes for you to check. Whom did that party pay? Related party का नाम तो accounts में होता है. Sister, brother, cousin का जितना जितना कंपनी है पूरे accounts हर accounts में होता है. Zeal accounts में भी है. आप audit account और annual report देखेंगे उसका भी report है. 50-60 कंपनी है. काफी लिस्ट है. मैं कभी गिनती किया नहीं. कंपनी पैसा उठा के रिलेटेड पार्टी को दे दिया. यह है Z8 का झमेला. To cut the long story short, if I look at dispassionately, could not the auditor find out? Where is true and fair? They will say, no, true and fair is what I'm going to sign. Bullshit, gone. NFRA doesn't believe anymore true and fair. Why didn't you look at it? Why didn't you do your professional skepticism? If they withdrew the money ahead of time, what did they do with the money? Did they take board permission? Did they take audit permission? No. That means there is professional skepticism. That means something is wrong. You just have to ask, okay, show me the board resolution that you can do this. No board resolution. Pure, there is no longer, ladies and gentlemen, true and fair, बाहर में जाए अभी. वो किताब में लिखा होता है. अभी true and correct हो रही है. Happy to ask, please ask questions. I know I got it heavy stuffs.
Yes, sir. We have got many questions now
I'm sure
based on
most
this.
of you will disagree with me. Some of you may kill me later on, but yeah, हकीकत है.
Yeah.
I
So
have still not closed. I'm going to summarize because there's still one or two things which you need to remember. Go ahead.
sure. For that, we'll just start one. We have question. What is the responsibility of internal auditors in such cases?
Fantastic
Along,
question.
yes.
First, fantastic question. I want to answer this first. Excellent question. I told you there are 5 guardrails of corporate governance management: independent directors, auditors, here statutory auditors, investors, regulators. Internal auditor is management. First guardrail, you are responsible most. Fortunately, the institute has been able to protect internal auditors. Internal auditors have not gone into jail so far, barring one case, I think, where there's a blatant problem. Two, I think, two. But there are thousands and thousands of fraud. The question should always be asked, what was internal auditor doing? Satyam bolo, Kingfisher bolo, Nirav Modi bolo, सवाल तो वही आता है ना, इंटरनल ऑडिटर क्या कर रहे थे? आपका responsive first था. So if you're internal auditor, be careful. Sooner than later, you would be made a part of the first guard. I think it will happen sooner than later. But yes, we are all responsible as internal auditor, much more than what we believe we are.
There's another question, quite interesting. I feel so. You have mentioned auditor plays an important role in ensuring corporate governance, but auditor is appointed by the company. So it is difficult to expect auditor to play his role effectively. Do you not think that there's a totally need for a change in process of appointment of auditor?
No. We can argue till the cows go home. Who do you think the auditor should be appointed? Auditors are appointed by the company. Many a times I am part of your CA group. There are lots of CA groups, which all of us are part, I'm quite sure. And some members still keep saying that the government must appoint the auditor. Now, if government must appoint the auditor, then why do ICAI exist? Why does ICAI? We should be trained. We are trained auditors. We have been trained. We have passed the most difficult exam on earth called IC Chartered Accountants exam. We know how our auditing is taking place. Ladies and gentlemen, we just have to be professionally, skepticism has to be displayed. The government cannot do everything. Government can nowhere in the world the government starts appointing auditors. Government appoints only where they are the owner, that is government companies. I don't think we should now go and say, Mr. Government, please appoint, you also appoint the auditors. You also appoint the auditors, mean we will now start bribing the government people, bureaucrats, to get audit work. So there will be complete pandemonium if governments have to appoint auditors. That's the only other way. Who else? company appoints auditors, but shareholders ticks off, no? Shareholder signs off. So ultimately, shareholder appoints auditors. And shareholder is the owner of the company. The owner of the company appoints auditors. At least I don't think the system is going to change and should not change. We have to do a good job. We have to protect ourselves. Then we are done and dusted.
Right. Another question is, as an employee in an organization, what rights do I have if I see a fraud is going in front of me?
I will tell you theory and then I tell you practice. The theory is whistleblower, but practical is very difficult. Indian ecosystem does not encourage whistleblowing. If you are a whistleblower, chances are that you'll be thrown out of the company sooner than later. I have not come across even one instance where a whistleblower has got promotion. अरे whistleblower है अच्छा तो देखो promotion दे general manager बना दे. I have not seen, maybe there are. So ecosystem doesn't help whistleblowers. We have whistleblower policy, whistleblower protectionism. Therefore, rather than whistleblowing, which is writing an anonymous letter to the boss and so on and so forth, to the audit committee chair and so on and so forth, I would still feel that you should go and tell the highest body, sir, something is going wrong, please take care. Another way of, I have noticed, normally the audit committee, the chairman of audit committee is usually a good guy. A chairman of audit committee is also usually a chartered accountant. You can seek a meeting with the chairman of audit committee. You can actually seek and tell him, sir, I'm seeing something wrong. Would you like to have a look at it? It is a better thing than whistleblowing, because the moment it is whistleblowing, a lot of problem starts. If it's a listed company, it has to report it to the stock market. The stock market price crashes, company goes into a big problem, and the ecosystem is not encouraging an India whistleblowing. So my submission is, it's a good question. I honestly don't know the answer. But play it by the ears, it's a difficult one.
Thank you, sir. I think we can continue for the summarizing session.
Yes, so it's 5:32.
Yeah.
I can still see the 7 or 8 of you are still awake. Many a times, most of our accountants, all of your accountants, you have a question, and perhaps that question hasn't come as yet, that if I'm an independent director and there is a fraud in the company, am I responsible? If you are an independent director of a company and there is a fraud in the company, are you responsible? I want you to look at, fraud has never been defined appropriately in the ecosystem before. But Companies Act 2013, for the first time, defined fraud, what is fraud, in section 447. In 447, there are 4 words. Now, 3 words. If there is an act, omission, or commission. You have acted, done something. You have omitted. That means you did not show some, let's say, sales properly or profit properly, or omitted to show something, or you concealed something, That means there is a loss, but you concealed the loss. You had an expenses, you concealed the expenses. Having said that, 447 says that there has to be a connivance. If you have to be held to be responsible for it, you have to connive. If an independent director can prove that I did not connive, what does independent directors do? They attend board meetings once a quarter. That also meeting takes place for 2 to 3 hours. That's all. But outside that, if somebody has money laundered, paid a bribe, or done something wrong, or chori kiya hai, how will they know? So they cannot connive. So if they have not connived, then you are not responsible for it. So my submission to you is, As long as you can prove that you have not connived, there is no responsibility whatsoever for a fraud. That is issue number one. So therefore, if you are not a if you have not connived and if you're an independent director, you will not be held responsible. Let's say internal auditor, somebody did ask how is internal auditor responsible? Internal auditor is responsible as a management to find out frauds for sure, no question. But if your chairman has done the fraud or the CFO has done the fraud and you did not connive, you did not know that, and you were out of the picture, you should be able to escape liability under Companies Act. So this is one issue which I want to talk to you about. And the second issue I want to talk to you about is that what is the psychology of a fraudster? What's a psychology? What makes a person create fraud? Either micro fraud or macro fraud, whichever fraud is. What makes a person commit a fraud? There are 5 reasons psychologically. There isn't a sixth one. And I'll tell you the 5 reasons. The first reason is greed. Greed, chahat. You want to become rich overnight. This is what happened in case of Satyam. Ramalinga Raju said, and I'll give you the little story. At that time, there was TCS and HCL, as you know, Wipro, TCS, HCL. They were large companies, large IT companies. So whoever the international companies, international customers were all placing orders on TCS and Infosys of the world, saying they are large. Because they are large, you know what happens when there is an IT company? They want to ensure that if I get a software from this IT company today, what if after 10 years this company goes bankrupt? Who will now service my software? Or after 5 years? So it is better to go to large companies because they will last. Satyam is a small company, it will not last. So Satyam says, "Arey, how do I prove I am last? So I will say make myself 50,000 crore instead of 500 crores." So he, in order to prove that he's big, in order to show that they are big, they could not do anything. I'm sorry for this. There was a disturbance in my office. So he wanted to prove that he's big. His greed, he wanted big business. Because of his greed, he adjusted his accounts. So greed is the first point. The second reason why fraud takes place is rationalization. You know what? You are in a company. No, sorry. Let's say you are staying somewhere. Your flat owner buys a new car. Now your wife says, "You see, that fellow has bought a new car. You have not bought a new car. आपका पास गाड़ी तो है नहीं." So what happens? You buy a new car. In order to buy a new car, you do a fraud, and you rationalize it, saying that if he could do, why will I not do? And you may have heard that he has done some hanky panky and he got his new car. So many a times a fraudster rationalizes. Many a times a fraudster rationalizes that that it's fine to do a fraud. The third reason why a fraud takes place is an opportunity. Think of a situation: you're driving a car, there is a red light, you should stop, there's a signal, you turn left, right, nobody, no police, you go off. Opportunity. You can do a fraud, that's a fraud, isn't it? You were supposed to stop in a red light, you did not because there was no policeman. Opportunity. Same happens in a company. You find that you are the recipient of the goods, You are the quality controller of the goods. You are the making payment of the goods. So you are everything, whole and soul. So you can always do a fraud opportunity. Ulterior motive is the fourth one. Some people are crooked minded. They are a fraud. They're by nature they are fraudsters. A lot of people are like that. किससे किसको उल्लू बनाएगा, किसको कैसे चोरी करेगा, कैसे दो चार उसको, how I can make a fraud out of him. There are a lot of people who are born with ulterior motive, born or acquire, whichever way you say. And the last one, which actually applies to also um, the Satya, is peer pressure. Somebody else is doing well, and I want to show I'm also doing well. So let me do hanky panky. So greed, rationalization, you rationalize a fraud. Opportunity, very simple. Opportunity provides you with the fraud. Ulterior motive, you actually have an ulterior motive. Mind is fraudulent mind, and peer pressure. These are the 5 reasons. There is no sixth one. I've done lots of analysis and paralysis. There is no sixth one. If you're an auditor, you're an accountant, you're a finance guy, look out for these 5 traits. Is that fellow greedy? Is that fellow rationalizing things? Is there an opportunity to carry out a fraud? Are there ulterior minds? Uska crooked mind hai? Or there's a lot of peer pressure. There are let's say his family is buying cars, or his neighbor is buying cars, or neighbor is going on foreign holidays, and therefore his wife is saying I should also go on foreign holidays. Peer pressure. My wife is putting pressure on me to say I should also go on foreign holidays. Is again a reason why frauds are made. So summarize, if I have to summarize all this now, we do know that an auditor, an accounting auditor, we are supposed to report true and fair. I think those days are gone. True and fair doesn't exist. The word professional skepticism means true and correct. We have to sniff for problems. No longer can we escape that we didn't know, I was not told. Management certification doesn't work anymore. Management se chitti likh ke le lo, sab kuch theek hai, doesn't work anymore. What have you done? There are psychological reasons why people does fraud and stretches governance. At last, there are 2 types of frauds, macro and micro. Ladies and gentlemen, in our whole study, all that you have studied so far have all focused on micro frauds. We have never studied macro frauds. It is never taught. And that's a problem. It is the structured frauds which are created by the entrepreneurs is where the trouble lies. That's where the biggest frauds have taken place, including, I just told you, Zeal fraud of 200 crores. It was Subhash Chandra who did it. It is there in the report of Order of Nafra. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5:41. Happy to take all questions.
Thank you, sir. One question we have received is, can technology such as AI and blockchain play an important role in enhancing corporate governance?
As it stands, I believe no. As it stands, the development of AI, AI will help you to take better decisions because your information is much better. AI will help you to take, let's say, analyze customer behavior, customer nuances much better. But well, as an auditor, you have to sniff for frauds. AI can help to do analysis better. For instance, forensic audit, perhaps. Till now, forensic audit is not as, AI is not as strong, but you can use AI to do forensic audit. Yes, that is feasibility. And if you are a good forensic auditor, then if the corporate governance should improve, I suppose that is feasible. I think that is feasibility. But I don't think the AI guys are now focused on corporate governance. They are more focused on corporate customer behavior because that's where the money is. if I can crack a customer mindset and I can sell that customer more and उसको उल्लू बना सकते हैं, तो उसमें हम खर्चा करें तो better होगा. But the tools are available perhaps to do a better forensic audit and hopefully therefore improve the corporate governance. Yes.
Another question we have is, please throw some light on maturity of internal audit system in corporate India. Internal auditor reporting to director finance or audit committee?
They all report to director finance for sure. I think 99% report to director of finance, but they should never report to director finance. Internal auditor can never report to CFO. It should always have to report to the audit committee chair. They should report to the audit committee chair. Theory, that is how it works. Practice, CFO is the boss. In organization structure, I think most CFOs will have internal auditor reported to him or her, which is very sad.
Another question we have, sir, is, will diversity in leadership improve corporate governance?
100%. 100%. I have noticed any group, any meeting where there are a woman sitting or a lady sitting, one or two, irrespective of Seema is there or not, that group behaves better. That groups behave better because women are not as crooked-minded as men are. Most are not. Of course, there are women fraudsters, no question. We can't make one flat statement, but my experience shows a presence of a woman, a presence of women does help to make things better, for sure. Boards become more efficient, meetings become more efficient. I think these men start behaving better. We also start wearing better clothes. So yes, we start behaving better. If we start behaving better, the world becomes a better place. Yes, we the men I meant.
Great, sir. Another question we have, can you summarize key areas to focus on for the future of corporate governance?
Very simple, I think. Future of corporate governance for accountants has moved away from true and fair to true and correct. It has happened. Therefore, the balance sheet and P&L, the way it is now written or prepared, you have to figure out that it is definitely fraud-free. If you're an insider, I think insider knows it is fraud-free or not. I refuse to believe that you as an accountant would not know that you are preparing a falsified accounts. I don't think it is ever feasible. And sometimes we do have to prepare one for whatever reason. For instance, when we submit our banking records for drawing the working capital, you have to write the stock, inventory stock, and minus creditors. How many of the time this drawing power is correctly made? Most of the time we over-report drawing power, we take extra money from the bank. That's falsification, that's a starting point of falsification. You have overstretched inventory, overvalued debtors, overstated debtors. And because now that you have overstated, it has to match with the balance sheet because that is what bankers will do. And the fraudulent balance sheet starts. Now you will say, अच्छा next quarter में ठीक कर लेगा. No problem, next quarter में सब ठीक ठाक हो जाएगा. नहीं होता है. It is like riding a tiger. You can ride a tiger, but it's very difficult to get down. आप get down करेगा तो आपको खा लेगा. That is the problem. So start not to do such things. Very easy to say because I'm speaking and you people are, I have all gone through it. I still go through it. It's easy to say, but the future of corporate governance is for accountants like you and me, no longer true and fair, but true and correct. Please remember, professional skepticism, ये दो word कभी भूलना मत. Which means we have to keep doubting things and say, oh, everything is okay, everything is okay, everything. Okay, now it's okay. Chal, take it. Go ahead. Professional skepticism.
Last question for this. We have, is implementation of ESG principle a measure of accessing good corporate governance?
Can you repeat what you said?
Is implementation of ESG principle a measure of practicing good corporate governance.
What is ESG? E, environment. S, social. G is governance. So ESG means one part of this tripod is governance. 550. So, but let me explain to you a concept here. In my view, ESG is a worthless concept. Why? Because E, S, and G are all different concepts. You cannot have one word of ESG. Let me explain, give you a story, then you will understand. Remember, Elon Musk is the most famous businessman in Earth. You will give him 100 on 100 on governance, or you will give 100 on 100 on E, environment. Elon Musk invented and popularized electric vehicles. You will give 100 and 100 on E because he created electric vehicles, EV vehicles, which is the savior of mankind, which is going to be the savior of mankind tomorrow by not generating carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. It's going to create. It will not create any harmful elements for the world. So Elon Musk will get 100 and 100 on E. But on G, he will get 0 on 100. He's the worst animal on earth in terms of governance. When he took over Twitter and called it X, on the second day, third day, he used to WhatsApp, he used to tweet employees, don't go to office, go back home, you are sacked. Is he a human being? He's a monster, he's an animal. He sacked people by tweeting that घर से निकाला है ना, अभी ऑफिस मत जाना, वापस जाओ. Now, how can a man of Elon Musk be given one word, he's good in ESG or bad in ESG? Can you define it? You can never define it. I can generate, like, let us say I'm a steel plant. I generate carbon dioxide. I'm very poor in E, but I could be very good in S because I have a school. I look after poor people. I give, let's say, I have a home for destitutes, very high in S, social, very high in S because I have destitute schools and all that. But 0 in E because I'm generating carbon dioxide to manufacture my steel. I use coal for generating my product. I'm not even going to G. See, this whole, ladies and gentlemen, you're all chartered accountants. E, S, and G is a hogwash. These three are completely different stuffs. No relationship to each other. Therefore, ESG reporting is absolutely bullshit. Why? Have anyone on this call ever read one ESG report? I challenge you have not read an ESG report. The ESG format goes into 45 pages, the format, blank format. And an average ESG report of a listed company in India goes to 80 to 90 pages. Who on earth reads that? Who on earth reads an ESG report? Chalo, aap prepared an ESG report. Have you seen a comparison of ESG report of 1,000 companies in India which we have to give? Is JSW better than Hindustan Lever? Hindustan Lever worse than Cadbury? Cadbury is better than Essar Steel? Where is that? Where is that report? What do I do with the ESG report? Who does what? Nothing. SEBI gets the ESG report. उसके बाद क्या होता है? कोई comparison नहीं होता है, कुछ नहीं होता है. So why do we have an ESG report? So will ESG report lead to better governance? I don't think so. It's a creator of somebody has created it. It is, as of now, it's useless unless we make it meaningful. We have to have just one pager. And you know what one pager must contain? One word called emission. हम क्या emission कर रहा है? Am I emitting good air? Good air, not bad air. Am I emitting good carbon dioxide or emitting oxygen? Emission will help us in this world. G, उसका report नहीं हो सकता है. And S का हो सकता है. S is social. Am I constructing a school? Am I giving doles to destitutes? And so हो सकता है. But what is bothering our human world is global warming. And the creation of global warming is emission of bad gas CO2 and carbon monoxide. Capture that one thing, compare 1,000 companies, 5,000 companies, make a better world.
Thank you, sir. With that, we come to an end of this session. And I would also like to mention currently we are having 1,100 plus chartered accountants online who are listening to you.
Wow.
That's-
I'm surprised. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you once again for your insightful and engaging session today. Your expertise and perspective on this matter have provided us valuable knowledge. We truly appreciate the time and effort you have dedicated for this session, sir. And on behalf of the entire Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, we extend our heartfelt gratitude and look forward for future opportunities to learn from you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All of us can become friends in Arlington. All of us have the same institute. We can all become friends there. Thank you so much. And if I can do anything for you, I shall always do. Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.